Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. So today we're going to talk about how freedom and self-discipline actually go hand in hand. So what we mean when we say that is people talk about freedom, but real freedom is not the absence of rules. It's the presence of discipline. You achieve freedom through discipline. The more liberty that you want, the more responsibility for your own life you have to carry. And we're big advocates of that. This is a good system for us. We're very happy in this system, but I think a lot of people are afraid of freedom because they're afraid of the responsibility that comes with it. And the problem is freedom without structure leads to chaos. We're going to give lots of examples in our video here to support our statements. And we're going to give examples of what that looks like in real life, how discipline leads to freedom in real life, and how self-governance, governing yourself, your thoughts, your actions, your emotions, is the real price you pay if you truly want independence. So that's the point of the episode today. Let's just jump into it right now. The first point we're going to make here is that discipline is, in fact, the foundation of freedom. So the Journal of Personality published some research in 2013, and it showed that individuals with higher self-discipline reported greater life satisfaction, better relationships, and more autonomy, not less. Now, I know that sounds crazy. How, if you have a bunch of self-discipline and you limit yourself from lots of things, how does that lead to more autonomy and more freedom? Well, let's look at a couple of examples to illustrate the point here. So a bad example of freedom without discipline is a person with no schedule. So they eat whenever they want, they eat whatever they want, they skip their responsibilities because they want freedom. Nobody can tell me what to do. I don't have to follow the rules. But they live in constant stress and chaos because those decisions mean that you're trading long-term good for short-term comfort. Versus, let's look at someone who is a self-employed entrepreneur, but they set their own hours like they have a regular job. They go into the office. They go into their home office. They work from X to Y, whatever the case may be. They treat it just like they would if they had a boss that was watching them clock in and clock out, and they live by that cadence. They live by that discipline. They create freedom through structure. When it's time to quit, they quit, and they go live their personal life. They go spend time with their family. They go work on their hobbies. They go chase the things that have meaning and purpose to them. But they can feel good about it because they're not thinking about all the things that are undone that they ignored for freedom, comfort right now. So the action step here, the way you can create a foundation of discipline that will lead you to freedom, lead you to mental, emotional, and actual freedom, is create a non-negotiable routine. Start with a morning routine. Even 30 minutes of structure is a good start. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do 100 sit-ups and 100 push-ups. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to put together my to-do list for the day. I suggest the to-do list being done the night before, not in the morning, so that when you wake up in the morning, you can jump right into whatever it is that you're going to work on. Maybe it's mindset work. Maybe you journal. Maybe you meditate. Maybe you practice gratitude first thing in the morning. But whatever it is, you treat it like that is the only thing that you can do for the first half hour. You're going to follow that routine no matter what. That sets the tone to free you up for a better day because you've shown discipline to start off with. I know it sounds a little backwards, but you actually achieve freedom through discipline. So set up a routine. Start with your morning routine. Pick what works for you, but stick with it. Give it a week. See how it goes for you. If you don't like it, change it up. But the structure and the routine are important. They're going to lead you to freedom. Okay. Number 2, responsibility is the trade-off that you accept to have independence. So the Psychological Review published studies in 2020 that show that people who take a high personal responsibility report higher agency, report higher effectiveness, and higher mental resilience. So people who say, what could I have done differently to impact that situation? How can I take control of this instead of hoping someone comes and helps me, hoping my luck changes, hoping things work out differently? The people that take agency in those things and take personal responsibility report that they're more effective and that they have better mental resilience. Super important. So what does a bad behavior look like in that situation? Someone who wants freedom from a boss or a spouse or government, but they turn around and blame those systems when life gets hard. They become a victim and they allow themselves to take on a victim mentality instead of saying, what could I do different to control or change or extricate myself from the situation? So, like we just said, the good example, the good way to approach this is you're going to say, I am in charge of my results. It's up to be. If it's meant to be, it's up to me, right? We're going to take control of those situations. We're not going to be a victim. We're not going to abdicate responsibility for someone else. We're going to take responsibility. So how can we do that? One action step we can take here is to identify one area of your life where you've been blaming other people for your problems. That area could be financial. It could be your health. It could be your career. You're going to take that blame and you're going to replace it with a written plan and take one step on those items today, right now. You're going to stop blaming others in those situations. You're going to pick one. Remember, financial maybe, health maybe, career maybe. Doesn't matter what it is. Somewhere where you've been blaming other people or thinking that you're a victim, and you're going to flip the script on that, and you're going to replace that blame with a written plan that includes a step you're going to start today. All right? We're going to start taking responsibility for that stuff right now. All right. Our number 3 point here is unregulated freedom breeds chaos. And there's plenty of examples throughout history. In fact, recent examples that show this. Collapse of failed states and communities with no rule of law, like Somalia in the 1990s. Like the Chaz, I can't even remember what Chaz stood for, but there's a group of basically anarchists that took over a 6-block chunk of Seattle, and someone wound up getting murdered in there in a couple of weeks. That illustrates that without personal or societal regulation, freedom devolves into dysfunction, and it happens every single time. So I'm not a big fan of government personally. I don't think there's a lot of regulation. I think there's too much regulation, and a lot of regulation is unnecessary. However, it's up to us. That doesn't mean there should be no regulation. We as people, we as a society need to regulate those situations. So a bad example of this is someone who says, nobody can tell me what to do, and then they constantly react emotionally. They lack goals. They don't go after things with meaning and purpose. And that always sends them into this kind of cyclical cycle of drama. It's drama after problem after problem, because they are not taking control of their situation, and they're not regulating themselves. They say they want freedom, but they actually don't want freedom. They just don't like to be told what to do. Those aren't the same thing. In that same situation, you can say, I want freedom, but I need to live by some values and some things that are important to me. Don't think of it as rules. Think of it as values. What's important to you? Treat other people respectfully. Be fair. Keep your word. Those kinds of things, right? People that hold themselves to a personal code shows that inner structure sustains outer liberty. So if we live by that code, it frees us up. We don't have to question, hey, I found $40. Should I take it? No, it's not mine because I'm honest. That's not what I do. It's very freeing. You don't have to worry about it. You're not tempted because you know what your code is. You know what's important. So that's your action step. Write your own personal code. Write your own code of conduct. Pick 3 to 5 values or principles that you are going to live by no matter what. Especially when it's just you, especially when no one's watching, especially when you're the only person that will know if you live by those values or not. Pick those things, set them up, and you will be so much happier you did that. It's very freeing when you make those decisions and live by those self-imposed rules and structure. Okay, number 4, comfort is the enemy of liberty. So when we want to be comfortable, we will sacrifice liberty for comfort. Studies in behavioral psychology show that people trade freedom for comfort, many times unconsciously, and become dependent on systems that limit self-growth. So COVID is a perfect example of this. Everyone wanted the government to step in and do something about COVID, which is a cold virus. And the cold has been around for literally thousands of years. There's no vaccine for it. There's no cure for it. COVID was a really bad cold virus. And was there a certain amount of people that died because they got COVID? Sure, there were. But was it anywhere near the numbers that were reported to us? There's no way in hell it was close to the numbers that were reported to us. Now, there were people that were already sick who got COVID and couldn't sustain their life because they got COVID while they had hypertension, while they had diabetes, while they were severely overweight, while they had chronic respiratory problems. But it was COVID that finished them off. It was not COVID that led to their death. COVID may have contributed to their death, but it was the chronic issues, comorbidities that they had that led to those things. But people were willing to rat their neighbors out for having parties. We were arresting people for walking on beaches and windsurfing and doing things outside. And there was no evidence that showed that that stuff led to the spread of COVID or hurt your health. There was no evidence that staying 6 feet away from other people would stop the spread. There was no evidence that any other masks than professional grade N95 masks had any effect on the transmission of COVID. But we all traded our freedom for the comfort. And unfortunately, that's how it worked. There's a lot of revisionist history now saying nobody knew anything. That's false. We knew a couple months in that all those things were bullshit. In fact, we knew before those things were instituted that some of them were bullshit, and we did them anyways because we wanted comfort. We wanted safety, so we're willing to trade freedom. Another example of that is someone that stays at a miserable job, but they get a paycheck every week. They know the crap they have to deal with. They're willing to tolerate that crap to trade their lives for a paycheck so that they can live a meager existence, right? They give up autonomy for comfort. I don't think that's a good way to live. I think it's one of the reasons a lot of people are unhappy. Another approach, a different approach, I would argue a better approach, quit the job. Downsize your expenses, start the business or the side hustle, find a job that you truly enjoy and like. Embrace the discomfort of that period to build a better life on the other side. So your action step here is to do one thing that intentionally makes you uncomfortable. You can have a hard conversation with someone that you've been putting off. You can take a cold shower. You can submit the job application that's tedious that you've been wanting to do for a while but putting off. You can launch a side hustle. You can launch a business. There's lots of things you can do that are going to make you uncomfortable. You need to take actions that make you uncomfortable every day. Use that discomfort to stretch your freedom muscle. Use that discomfort to grow personally. Remember that comfort is the enemy of liberty. You can't stay satisfied and grow. And you want to grow. We all want to grow as people. That's what makes us happiest. Okay. Last point here. Freedom without purpose leads to emptiness. Always. And we're going to talk a little bit about this here. Like people that strike it big, there's study after study and person after person that will tell you, I got all this money and all of a sudden I had this empty, hollow feeling. What am I doing? What am I chasing? What purpose do I have now? What does it all mean? But Viktor Frankl, who spent time in concentration camps in Nazi Germany and went on to lead a very successful life as a psychologist and an author and an educator, in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, emphasizes that freedom must be tied to responsibility and purpose, or it leads to apathy and despair. I'm going to go ahead and listen to Viktor Frankl and the experiences that he based his hypothesis on. That guy went through one of the worst things anyone's ever gone through, and he came out sharing these lessons. They're valuable lessons that we should listen to. So if you retire early or you wind up starting a business, selling it off and hitting it big, many times when people hit that stage, they actually fall into a depression and they have no structure or meaning. They were chasing and building and grinding. They hit the home run and now all of a sudden they don't know what to do and they have no purpose and they're adrift. And it's a really bad place to be. I'm not saying you don't want to make a bunch of money. The point is, if you don't have something that you're going after all the time, it's going to lead to apathy and despair. Like Viktor Frankl said, absolutely. So what you want to do is design your freedom around contribution, coaching others, building something meaningful, mentoring, or serving a cause. So those are all things you could do after you sell your business that still are important, that still give you purpose, that still give you a reason to wake up and attack the day every day. and provide some meaning to your life. But if you don't have a purpose, that freedom is going to feel very hollow and empty and pointless. So write down your own reason that you want freedom. What do you want to do with your time? What do you want to put your energy towards? And once you have autonomy, what do you want to do with that autonomy? Sitting on the beach and drinking Mai Tais is not the answer. Watching Netflix and eating bonbons is not the answer. You have to have a purpose. And if you have that purpose, even while you're working, it's gonna increase exponentially your drive, your focus, and your happiness. So make it bigger than yourself. It's got to be outside of you or things that you personally benefit from. It's got to be a bigger purpose. That's where you're going to feel the best in your life. So those are our points, guys. Just remember, freedom is earned. It's not given. It's like trust. You have to earn trust. Nobody gives you trust. You have to earn it. You don't get freedom by rejecting rules. You get it by mastering rules you set for yourself. So self-governance is the price. Responsibility is the toll, and discipline is the gatekeeper. All those will lead you to freedom. So freedom through discipline. Remember that. It's the way to go. All right, guys. So James puts it up every day. Head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All our podcast episodes are there. Links to all our social media accounts are there. We've got a newsletter we publish every weekday. You can subscribe to on our website. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe to our podcast, whatever platform you consume it on. We're going to keep giving you good tips to build the life that you want. We're going to keep having great guests come on and tell you what they've learned about the successes and failures in their life so that you can take their advice and their systems and the things that they've learned, the tools that they share. You can incorporate those into your life so that you can build a better life. You don't want to miss it. Our guests are awesome. Our podcast does a good job of really helping you build a purposeful life. Make sure you catch the next episode. We'll see you there.